Warning. This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and things are heating up a little bit, and I'm going to show you exactly how I'm looking at the markets at the moment. I saw some big red candles in the stock market, a little bit of a VIX spike yesterday, and most importantly, I saw a whole heap of people tearing their hair out with stress. So, as ever, okay, we just have to keep taking it one day at a time. Take the emotions out of it. Yes, big red candles can potentially be the start of something much, much more severe, or we might just be right in that timing window for some half-cycle lows. So as always, okay, we're going to take it one day at a time, see what the market will give. First of all, I wanted to point out a couple of things, okay? Apparently, the FBI is warning that North Korea is trying to hack and steal the crypto and Bitcoin from the ETFs. So, I mean, is this an issue or is this some kind of FUD campaign? I don't know. I'll let you be the judge. As we are approaching that CPI print on the 11th, okay, I will be going live as normal. And I have to say that I think this print is going to be particularly fun, largely because, okay, Trueflation currently has us on 1.2%. So that's pretty wild. Of course, this is in real time. This updates daily. So I don't think we're going to be seeing any one handles, but I do think we could possibly get to mid twos. And then again, that will be the Camel Crew staying on top of inflation. That will be the rest of the market suddenly realizing that the Fed is indeed very, very late to cut and inflation is perhaps not as sticky as most people believe. Or, of course, we're going to find out if I'm completely wrong in my assessment. Either way, it should be a laugh as they normally are. I wanted to point out a couple of things from the mighty Jim here. Okay, buyers are walking away at this point. So historically speaking, okay, you want to do the opposite of what this guy tweets. And the same is true for Bitcoin as he has turned bearish on Bitcoin and crypto as well. So happy days, right into those half-cycle low timing windows, no less. Bob Lucas here has done the bulk of the work for me. Okay, so for gold, we are looking for a pullback into a daily cycle low. We seem to be getting that. Of course, if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that we've been expecting this for some time. And I have been saying, particularly in the member section, that this is going to represent an opportunity for me to load up and probably get hold of some miners as well. So far, so good for gold. Zooming out on the weekly cycle, we should have one final push to a high and then be on our way down to find that yearly cycle low. And again, I've been talking about this, particularly in the member section, that we should be looking to load the boat here. For the stock market, like I was saying earlier, despite the big red candle, despite a lot of people out here trying to call tops, and maybe they'll be right, okay, but we just so happen to be right in that timing window for a little bit of a half cycle low shakeout. And at the moment, as Bob points out, okay, we've got a bunch of right translated cycles. Right translated cycles are inherently bullish, and until proven otherwise, there's no reason to start trying to call tops here. Until the market proves to us that that really was the top, the posture should be cautiously optimistic for now at least. One thing that may put a little bit of pressure on us short term is that the dollar is overdue for a counter trend bounce here for a weekly cycle low, and so we are possibly going to see a nice big strong push from the dollar first. However, as you'll see when we get to the dollar chart in a minute, we are still expecting new lows for the dollar. So a little bit of short-term wobble, a little bit of short-term volatility, more than to be expected. And the read on Bitcoin is still unclear from a cycle perspective, okay? If you're a bull here, you really want to see that we're about to move up in this green path. But notice how Bob is also putting on the table a couple of much more significant flushes into a weekly cycle low late in the year. Before then, we can look to resume up towards that right translated cycle top. So overall, apart from Bitcoin, okay, the read is pretty clear. Bitcoin may or may not have some churning to do. But I think this is a really nice tweet here that summarizes the market sentiment, particularly for Bitcoin at the moment, okay? Anytime you see people crying about saving this market, okay, just tell them to be quiet and zoom out. We've spent all year consolidating in the most massive bull flag in Bitcoin's history, which will likely break out to the upside and see new all-time highs. And I thought I would just spend a moment here to point something out because I was talking to CPM last night about this, okay? If you bought Bitcoin somewhere in this neighborhood, and you've experienced a roughly 250% gain up to the high, and now you've had to give back 25 or 30% of that, I doubt you're stressing too much. I doubt you're annoyed. I doubt you're infighting with people on the Twitter comment sections and things like this. But as I was telling CPM last night, you know, the story for most investors here is when we were down here at the lows of about 16K, most people were actually waiting for 14 or 12k, right? And then we got this pop up to around 25k and everyone said, oh, no way, okay, biggest bull trap ever. And this is surely going to resolve in new lows, or at least a retest of the lows. And then, of course, Bitcoin moved up here to around 40k, and everyone said, well, that's certainly the biggest bull trap of all time. It's never made an all-time high before the halving, okay? So, if anything, I'm definitely not buying here because we know what comes next, a retest of the lows. We even had some very, very large accounts on YouTube calling this a 702 retracement and dumping their entire stack of Bitcoin here. And only once we got up to the all-time high pre-halving, okay, only once we saw about 73k, did everyone that missed the entire move decide now is the perfect time, not only to buy Bitcoin, but to go all in on altcoins as well. And so if you were lucky and you bought Bitcoin at the top, you're only down about 25%. But a lot of people bought altcoins at the top, and they're down up to 80 or 90%. So if you're in this camp of people that is currently throwing your toys out of the pram and super stressed about everything, then just understand, when we zoom out, this is a giant bull flag, and if we can break out to the upside, then we are likely going to see new all-time highs very, very quickly. Not to mention, we have a potential wave 2 just completed for Bitcoin here, okay? 1 into 2, looking for 3, 4, and 5. And the funny thing about this is if this was to occur, this would still be left translated. Now, admittedly, the longer that we are in this range, the longer we're in this kind of bull flag thing, then the less likely a left translated cycle top is, unless, of course, that was it. But the funny thing about this moment right here is almost nobody thinks that left translated is even possible. Yet, if that really is 1 into the 2, then left translated is the base case right now. So it's to be determined. Invalidation here would be trading below the low from back here, about 49k. But if we start to get a push out of here, particularly on perhaps some stronger than expected unemployment data that's due to come out tomorrow, and then perhaps we see that CPI print somewhere down in the mid 2s the following week, okay, I would not at all be surprised if indeed we do get a push to the upside here. And again, if we zoom out and really think about this, in hindsight, this would be super obvious. We had a big 250% move off the lows. We spent ages consolidating in a bull flag, only to break out from that bull flag and continue the primary trend. Is this absolutely crazy? I don't think so personally. And as I often say, if we imagine walking forward into the future and we've seen something like this, would we be able to look back at this with hindsight and say that nobody could have seen that coming? Or would we look back with hindsight and say that was pretty obvious because it was a giant bull flag that broke to the upside? So as ever, open to all possible outcomes. And something else I wanted to point out is when we overlay the current cycle with all the prior cycles, it seems absolutely crazy to be calling tops here. Unless this cycle is going to be completely different, unlike anything we've ever seen before, then it is still super early in this cycle to even be entertaining the idea that there's not potentially more upside left on the table. Okay, even if this cycle was to underperform, there's probably still months ahead if we make the assumption that Bitcoin is going to have a normal right translated cycle. So that's to be determined, of course. But when we zoom out and overlay the cycles, okay, this thing looks very, very, very early. And selling here, if the cycle is going to do anything like it did in the prior runs, would be an absolute catastrophic mistake. So as I was saying earlier with the dollar index, okay, we should probably be expecting some kind of counter trend bounce. I've been talking about this since before Bob posted it. But I've been saying as long as we don't make the repair by breaking out the downsloping red resistance line, then this thing probably is wanting to roll over. And of course, if it can do that, that should set us up to see more upside in risk assets, Bitcoin, gold, all of that stuff. I've been pointing at the yields because the yields have had a very, very similar structure. You can see they've been following my arbitrary yellow squiggle the whole way down. And this thing is looking, again, like it's getting ready for that next leg to the downside. Makes perfect sense given that we know rate cuts are coming in September, the 18th meeting. Meanwhile, Bitcoin holding up relatively well, especially given the big risk-off moment or day that we saw yesterday in the stock market. The big question is, well, have we got a cycle inversion, as I was talking about yesterday? Are we about to find that half cycle low right around day 31 and then resume up out of that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 structure? Or are we about to undercut that low, invalidate the Elliot wave count, and therefore force a cycle low that forms below where I had it marked at the inversion? So either way, we're going to learn something, right? If we form a new low, that has much more bearish implications and tells us we've probably got a lot more weeks and months ahead of us before we can even entertain breaking out. And if indeed we confirm this is a daily cycle inversion and a weekly cycle, and this forms a higher low, then that tells you everyone that is bearish is on the wrong side of the cycles. Again, remember, as I often say when we get to a half cycle low, these half cycle lows serve to flush and reset the sentiment before the next leg to the upside. When we look at the S&P 500, lots of mixed signals, okay? We have chopped the second angle, so far breaking down from it. It's got an awful lot of people calling tops, especially given that we made a lower high here relative to the prior high. But again, notice where we are in terms of the cycles. Yesterday was a perfect day 20 half cycle low shakeout. So if this thing is going to find a low in the next session or two, and then resume to the upside, we would be able to look back with hindsight and say, that makes perfect sense. It's just a half cycle low shakeout, the way we often see. There's one here, right? Half cycle low, normal low. Nasdaq got a large sell-off yesterday as well, or relatively speaking, a large sell-off down over 600 points. But again, are we completing breakout retest resumption of the blue? Okay, are we going to recover the second angle today? Because if we do, then it's just one candle and there's nothing to worry about. Okay, start to close multiple daily candles to the downside here, and then we can entertain looking for shorts, we can entertain bearish setups. But so far, as ever, we take it one day at a time. We're not just making rash decisions on one daily candle. And the Dow Jones actually holding up pretty well. Okay, the Dow Jones holding up way, way, way better than everything else, still holding that third angle. So all the while it's above, then it's above, right? Then we continue to look for further upside. Again, yesterday's big red candle right in that half cycle low timing window. So if it is to bounce out of here, it would make perfect sense from a cycle perspective. One thing that is a little bit concerning to me is the VIX getting quite a large pop. I wasn't expecting to see this, so we're going to find out. The cycles are still down, so we're actually going against the cycles here. It's possible it bottomed early, but again, it'll be a major tell from the market if we start to see big red candles over the coming couple of sessions, perhaps especially after tomorrow's economic data comes out and unemployment is not so bad. Of course, the inverse is true as well. If that unemployment data misses massively, then we might have to entertain some bearish setups, but we'll find out, right? We'll find out. And gold finally giving us that opportunity to get in on a cycle low over the next couple of sessions. So we'll be looking, as always, for a swing to form inside of the timing window, as indicated by my green arrow here. And we'll be looking for that to be confirmed with a trendline break. And then I think it will be time for me to add some exposure and look for one final push to the upside. Same deal for silver. I would think that silver is likely about to do something like this, work its way up here, and then get a breakout. And that is why it might have a long position lined up in this neighborhood. So as ever, we'll keep taking it one day at a time. We'll take the emotion out of it. We'll let the cycles guide us. If these really are half cycle low shakeouts, then we should see some turnaround, some relief, and some continuation of upside over the next 1 to 2 sessions. And if we don't see that, then we will have learned something. We'll know that the reason we were being cautious was warranted, and we can even start to entertain some more bearish setups. So eyes on the unemployment data tomorrow, eyes on the weekly closes as always. And until next time, I hope you're doing well. Take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.